What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Hash It Out Show. I am your host, JB, your sports guy. We got a special guest on the show, but before we get to that special guest, I got my two co-hosts. First, the one, the only, VK Jones with Crescent City Sports. What's up, VK Jones?
What's going on, Jerry? We appreciate everybody joining us tonight on the Hash It Out Show. This is Legends Month. All month long, we're focusing on the greatest football players ever to come out of the state of Louisiana. Like, tag, and share the Hash It Out Show on YouTube and also on Facebook and all social media outlets. And we got a very special guest tonight that is representing BR in itself and SU. So we gotta get it going here. So it's good to be here tonight.
My other co-host, also on Crescent City Sports, George Peppers. What's up, GP?
Not too much, JB. I'm good tonight. I like the background better tonight than last night. A lot better because you had that Ohio State foolishness last night. But no, it's a great night. We're gonna rock and roll and do it again. I can't wait to talk to our special guest. This young man is somebody we all have covered, and he's been a marvel in Louisiana sports. And let's get ready to do it.
Let's do it. Our special guest, he played college ball right there at Southern University. Also, he played his high school ball for the Hahnville Tigers. He helped lead them to a state championship in 2003. Ladies and gentlemen, the one, the only, Bryant Lee, my good friend. What's going on?
What's up? What's up, man? Glad to be on.
Oh, man, we appreciate it, man. How's the family doing, man?
Doing good. Keeping me busy. Keeping
Yeah.
me busy.
What about your parents and your sister? They all doing well?
Yeah, they doing good too. They doing too. And the kids keeping them busy too.
I bet. I bet. Oh, man. So let's get right into it. What or who was it that got you into playing football?
Man, it was always in the family, of course, starting out with my dad, man, it's crazy that this, you have all of these stats and all of that stuff there, but one of the best stats was something dealing with my dad. He never missed a game in high school, little league, high school, and college. Never missed not one football game. So I would start off with him. He kind of gave me that guidance, gave me that push to get into all sports, whether it was football all the way to karate. I was always involved in different things, and they kept me active. And he played a big role in that.
Now, next question. As a freshman at Hahnville, you were behind the likes of LaRon Landry and Nick Cannon. Was it anything that you learned from them while waiting your turn to be the starting quarterback?
Well, I learned so much from Nick. To this day, I still think Nick is the greatest quarterback to ever play at Hahnville. Uh, Man, it was just his guidance and the lead. He led by example. I also looked up to guys like DeJuan Landry too, where DeJuan was more of a vocal person, but like I said, Nick Cannon was just the guy. He wasn't real vocal. He was just go out there and let me show you how to read it. Read this play this way or read this play that way. I'm gonna show you how to do it. I ain't gonna talk about it too much, but you go get it. Let me show you how to do it. And with LaRon, he was always, you know, playing quarterback and playing safety at the same time.
Right.
He taught me how to, just be that physical player playing quarterback, where Nick was more finesse and just tuned into being a natural quarterback. LaRon just told me, man, you got to go out there and grind, and you just got to be, try to be the best athlete on the field type deal. Yeah, so I definitely learned a lot from all three of those guys.
Good deal. That sounds like LaRon, like just go out there and hit somebody. That just sounds like him, bro. Knowing his mentality.
Right.
Let's get into the 2003 year. Like you said, you mentioned DeJuan Landry. He got his senior year, got the team to the second round. They lost to St. Aug at Hahnville.
Mm-hmm.
Nick Cannon got the team to the quarterfinals. They lost at West Monroe. LaRon got them to the quarterfinals, and they lost at Acadiana. Now it's your turn as a junior. And not a lot of people are talking about Hahnville High School having a chance to get to state. There's no big time name at the quarterback position. They don't know much about Bryant Lee. How was it going under the radar when the season started?
You know what? Those guys have set great examples. In the previous years that I was at Hahnville, I actually only played I actually started playing quarterback my freshman year at Hahnville. Coach Mike Silver, my dad, he brought me to practice one day, and they didn't know who I was. I picked up a football. Coach Mike Silver was the quarterback coach at the time, and just started playing pitch and catch with him. And he seen something in me. I wanted to play receiver, but he just seen something in me, and he pulled my daddy off to the side and was like, "Look, your son I don't care what position he want to play. He gonna be a quarterback for us." And ever since then, it was always, let me stay tuned into being a quarterback. And just playing behind Nick Cannon and LaRon Landry. I just kind of flowed into that position, and I started junior varsity as a freshman and played every game. We won every game, junior varsity. My sophomore year, when LaRon was starting, they was like, well, look, LaRon doing a lot of work on the offensive side of the ball, and he out starting safety. So it might be some time where he need a break. We can't afford you to get hurt playing junior varsity. So I didn't play no junior varsity my sophomore year.
Yes, indeed.
So that junior year, man, we used to go to camp, and we would go to, I think it used to be in, Robert, Louisiana.
Mm-hmm.
We called it was called Camp Living Water, but we called it Camp Living Hell. Well, you had practices 3 times a day, and man, I just had great guys around me and great coaches as well that they prepared me to take on that responsibility of leading, our team. Man, Darius Raynaud, Craig Turner,
yeah,
Christian Populous, man, I had leaders already, around me, built around me to where, man, I was good. All I had to do was manage the game.
Let's get into the big time rivalry, Hahnville, Destrehan. And back in the day when you played, and most people played LaRon and DeJuan, the games were pretty close. What do you remember about that game your junior year?
My junior year, they almost canceled the game.
Wow.
They had a big storm that hit us the day of the game. I'm not sure if it was a hurricane. It might have just been like a real bad storm.
Bad storm, yeah.
Yeah, and at the time, we had a grass field, and the drainage system wasn't good, and it reminded a lot of people of the DeJuan senior year playing against St. Aug.
St. Aug, yep.
Yeah, the field was soaking wet. It was done. before we even started the game. So, they thought about canceling the game, but, we was like, man, let's play. It'll be fun. And, we had to throw out our whole script on throwing the ball. I think that was probably one of my worst games ever. Man, I completed one pass. I was 1 for 10 that game. And I mean, I understood it, but I kind of held that over my shoulder, for a long time, and kind of like, man, I'm not looking back to that game ever again,
Yeah.
That made me a better person, a better leader, a better quarterback, because I was like, man, I refuse to play terrible like that, even though, the odds was already against us with the bad weather and everything. But man, one of the most amazing plays ever was one of those games where I fumbled the snap, I picked it up, and man, I ended up stepping on the back of one of the defenders or one of the players, and man, just trying to make something happen. Darius Raynaud. Now the stands are packed, everyone's screaming and yelling. I clearly hear Darius Raynaud say, "B, pitch it, B, pitch it." And I didn't even look. I just threw it in the bag. I tossed it to him in the backfield. He caught it, and man, he reversed field. He did some moves, and just, next thing you know, 50 yards later, he running into the end zone. And I didn't know how great the play was until we watched it on film and everything. And it was like, man, what the hell happened? But I remember that play. And man, that was probably one of the plays that, we were like, man, this might be our year. Early on in the season, we was like, man, can't nothing stop us.
So earlier today, man, I'm looking up, trying to find y'all schedule. Couldn't find it. And I said, I know they played East St. John that year. I just can remember if Hahnville went undefeated or they had one loss, and that one loss was to them. But miraculously, YouTube got the game against East St. John that year.
Yep.
Man, VK and GP, if you never saw this game, you got to look up that game, Hahnville versus East St. John 2003. And I'm going to let Brian talk about it, but I'm going to say this. Just know Hahnville was down 42-28 with about 9 minutes left. Brian, you can take it from there, man.
Man, going into the game, we riding, our run game real heavy. Darius and Craig, that's probably the best 1-2 punch I've ever seen in high school football. And I had them in the backfield. But going into the maybe like the first series of the game, Darius catch a toss out of the backfield and twist his ankle. So we like, man, what's going on? Man, it's too early in the game for our star to be injured. Not saying that we don't have, great backup players that can fill that position, but we was like, man, Darius Raynaud, he's a rare breed. And man, great leadership around us. Craig Turner was able to step up and, kind of, take control of the game. He calmed us down and, did everything a leader was supposed to do. And I just piggybacked off of him. And man, I think it may have been maybe 3 overtimes.
It was 1.
Was it 1?
It was 1 overtime. I watched it today.
Was more than that. I thought it was more than that.
No.
Okay.
You ran the touchdown in to take the lead. No, you ran the 2-point conversion in.
The 2-point conversion.
Took the lead. Perilou went down the field, and he was scrambling, and everybody rolled to the side he was running on. He running to his left. The defense ran to the right.
Yep.
They had a running back that was blocking with Perilou that just slid to the right side, and he turned back around and threw it to him. The running back scored the touchdown. Going to overtime. Y'all scored first and missed the extra point.
Yeah.
Y'all stopped Perilou 4 times in a row for the win.
Yep. Man, and just going back and watch that game, I was like, man, I threw like 4 touchdowns and I ran 2 of them in. Man, what's going? I didn't know that. Like, hey, look, and I talk when I talk to Ryan Perlew, man, we talk about that all the time. He was like, man, I started at East St. John for 4 years, man. But one thing I never did, bro, I never beat Hahnville. And I'm like, bro, man, that's a crazy stat.
That's true.
At the time, Ryan Perlew was one of the best players I've ever seen in high school football, and I'm like, bro, man, you worried about all of that, man. You at LSU, man. You have made it, man. You worried about playing high school football? But
it haunts them.
Yeah, yep. And man, I didn't realize I had threw 3 or 4 touchdown passes that game and ran touchdowns in and stuff like that. And in a moment of things, you don't really know what's going on. You just trying to outscore the next team.
Definitely. Let's get to the playoffs, man. What you got something to say?
No, I was gonna say another person that helped us win that game too was Brett Knockin.
Mm-hmm.
Brett Knockin, man, that dude he was a freak of nature too.
I remember Brett.
Yeah. Yep.
Let's get to the playoffs. Hahnville is the number 5 seed. First game against Fontainebleau, 34-10. Barr comes down from Lake Charles. They lose 28-12. Then y'all come to the West Bank of Jefferson Parish and play Higgins. Higgins, a 29 seed. They upset one of their favorite teams picked to go to state in the first round, West Jeff. They got to the quarters, gave y'all a tough matchup. 20-14, y'all win. Semifinals, you defeat Karen Crow 42-21. We get to the finals, and it's the talk of town. Hahnville has to face Evangel. And not many people are giving Hahnville a shot to beat Evangel. You hear about Jacob Hester and the rest of Evangel. They in a shotgun with the quarterback 7 yards back behind the center. They slinging it left and right. Hahnville ain't got a shot. Before I get into the game, I want to know, what was the team mentality the week of practice, and what did Coach Lou Valden say to keep you guys motivated and not to hear the outside noise?
Well, that I want to take it back. I want to get to that Higgins game.
All right.
By far the hardest game we ever played that year. That was, them dudes was hitting. But going into that week playing against the Evangel University at the time, man, we didn't change anything really. We just, the coaches came up with a great game plan. All throughout the year, we had trusted their game plan, so we knew that they wasn't gonna steer us wrong. We knew that they was gonna come into the game, go into that week, go into that game with a game plan like no other. They spent a lot of time, breaking down film and all of those things, that we didn't see. But man, going into the game, I keep saying this, our leaders that we had around us, the Craig Turners, the Darius Raynaud's. Craig Turner, the day of the game, Craig Turner walked everybody. We had walkthroughs at Hahnville.
Mm-hmm.
He took the eye of the tiger. We had grass back then, so
right.
We ain't had all of that luxury of the turf and everything. But he took the grass from the eye of the tiger that we had painted in the middle of the field and put it in a Ziploc bag. And the day of the game, we in the locker room, and he walks he's giving that one of those speeches, and that's when he let everyone know that he had took the eye of the tiger from the middle of the field and put that grass and that dirt in that Ziploc bag, and told him that we never lose at home. So we're gonna make the Superdome our home. And the game, if you're watching the highlights of the game, you see when we're walking out into the field at the dome, you see him sprinkling the
grass.
The grass on the Superdome turf. And the whole time he telling us, this our house, and they had chants and everything back then. I don't remember, but he basically said, this our home. We don't lose at home. The last time we had lost a home game was the Wine senior year against St. Aug. But we had never lost a home game since then. So, that was kind of like our niche. We ain't losing at home. We're gonna make this our home. And man, that opening kickoff when he returned that touchdown, I was standing in the middle of Craig and Darius on the sideline, and we looked at each other like, uh-oh. We was like, man, we might be in trouble. These boys are the real deal. But like I said, man, we had great leaders, and I was able to, rebound off of that too, and kind of, help rally the guys along and stuff like that. But I don't think we knew where we was at until, everybody started really playing and getting hit and everything. Like, man, this is the championship game. And man, it was sold out, and I think they had a seat empty.
You ain't lying. I was there. Talk about once that clock hit 0, man, and y'all celebrating on that field.
Man, it still didn't hit me. I was just bouncing around, and like I could remember it like it was yesterday, But I'm like, man, what happened? Like this Evangel, this, the number 10th ranked team, number 3 ranked team in the nation, and we just upset them. Like it didn't hit me until like later on that, man, we really won the state championship, the 5A state championship. But man, it was definitely like, man, what just happened? Yeah.
Oh man, y'all come back the next season rolling, undefeated regular season, first round win, second round win against West Jeff, and then we get to Slidell, which happened to be your last game ever as a Hahnville Tiger, man. The 1-point defeat to Slidell, man. Talk about that night, man. How hard was it that being a defending champion and a senior in high school, that your last game ended the way it did?
Man, for the longest, I kicked myself in the butt over that, because man, we only put up 13 points, but we did everything that we could. Slidell had a good team. They had a pretty good team. It might have been a play calling here and there that we could have did better. It could have been, me not throwing the right pass, not reading it right, or whatever the case may have been. But I felt that I had done everything I could at the moment. We drove down last drive of the game. I think we missed a field goal at the end of the game.
Yeah.
We drove it down, perfect drive. And that perfect drive of us throwing the ball, because I know we ran the ball a lot that game, but just throwing the ball, we were successful throwing the ball. We had Dale Robertson at receiver. I had Dale Robertson at receiver, who, was just a different type of guy. He was more of an Anquan Bolden. He wasn't too flashy, but he was do the hard work. And then I had a guy by the name of Bruce Singleton.
Yeah.
Bruce Singleton was probably one of the best athletes I ever played with. And he wasn't the fastest. He wasn't, the best route runner. He just knew how to get open and judge a football in the air. I just felt like if we would have used him more, we would have beat him by a good bit. But that last drive of the game, we did everything we could. got in field goal range, kicker missed the field goal. It was almost the same feeling as winning a state championship, really. As far as, me sitting there like, man, what just happened? Like, did we just lose? And I had never lost. That was my first loss
Yeah.
in high school. So I didn't know how to lose a game. So that it was a shocker. Like, I had never won a state championship and I had never lost a game. So it kind of felt the same. And then I'm seeing like teammates around me who probably will never play football again. They, crying and everything. And I'm like, man, I feel for them. I
Yeah.
might have an opportunity of playing at the next level, but it's some of them guys who that's their last rodeo, that affected me. And I kind of felt bad because, man, they don't have that opportunity like I might have. So that it felt the same. It really felt the same.
VK, I pass it to you, my friend.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Brian, it's good to have you on the show and everything. You know what I'm saying? I can definitely say that, we know Jared is family and everything else is from that area in Hahnville and everything else. And personally, I like to say I am a Purple Knight alumnus from St. Augustine myself, and a lot of history into River Parish and everything else. And proudly to say we have a winning record against Hahnville. You know, I'm just saying, because we were part of the ultimate baptism for Hahnville in '94, and actually that was my birthday that night when we got Hahnville at the time. And then the Dewan Landry last game when they had that crazy play, and actually it kind of fired up St. Aug that night because a lot of people doubted them and saying, "Oh, I don't know, St. Aug can play in the rain." And Tony Biegas fired them up before the game and said, "Forget the mud, forget this." They said we can't play in the mud, and all of a sudden it was. But that ball game was really a good game. It was hard hitting in itself, but
Uh-huh.
it was fortunate that St. Aug won that ball game. But then LaRon Landry got his revenge.
Yeah.
And St. Aug had that, but LaRon Landry got his revenge. I'm gonna give him that. You know. But regardless of the fact, man, you was unbelievable at Hahnville. And I was one of the few people that said Hahnville had a shot against Evangel. I was one of the few people because I said it myself. I looked at Evangel during the year and I said they gotta face a team, one with size and two that has no fear. I watched y'all against Destrehan and I watched y'all against East St. John. In my mind, I'm like, okay, I think we got the team that can get them. Some
Yeah.
people are like, are you sure? I'm like, I think Hahnville's that team. I think they're gonna get Evangel. I really think so. But I wanted to ask you your thoughts about the pressure. It seemed like the pressure was kind of off you, especially junior year. It seemed like everything was going in there. It seems like you said, the leadership really came to fold for you. Did that leadership really take a lot of pressure off you going into that year, that junior year, and especially going into the state championship game?
Definitely. Definitely. I joke with Darius all the time because, you know, Darius and Craig was so like amazing, but we knew that, man, we can throw the ball, but we ain't gonna throw the ball if we get them the ball in the backfield and it's 14 nothing and 21 nothing before we get a chance to really get in a position to throw the football. So me and Christian Populous, we used to always, pull each other to the side like, man, look, man, our first few passes, man, we gotta connect because our coach is not gonna want to throw the football when it's 28 nothing. Our defense playing lights out. So ain't too many people go score on our defense. Man, we gotta, man, look, if I throw you a slant route for 5 yards and we at our 20, man, you better figure out a way to keep going and score. We don't know how much passing we gonna do 28 nothing. And man, them guys, and they understood that too. Craig and Darius, they understood that too. And sometimes I felt like, man, Craig and Darius, man, they ain't really playing too hard. They must want us to get our shine on. So let's hurry up and get our shine on before we start pounding the rock and it's 35-7 or 35-0. Then at halftime we not playing. I probably played that my junior year. I probably played in the regular season. I probably played maybe 2 full games in the regular season. At halftime, they taking shoulder pads and helmets from you. We're gonna let the junior varsity play the second half. So man, that was another chip on me and Christian's shoulder. And Christian Poplar being a senior, he like, man, I'm trying to get a scholarship just like them two. So man, look, if I'm open, you better find me. So I probably had a lot of pressure from him and the other receivers before I had pressure from the opposing team. But man, great leadership, enabled us to work as a team and fight, overcome adversity pretty much.
Well, when you guys won the state championship and when Hahnville won it all, first time since 1995, your thoughts of, did you think at the time how much of a change in trajectory that state championship Hahnville that you wanted that year? Because you had to think this was the first time a Southeast Louisiana team has won a state title in about almost 10 years. Because remember, the North Louisiana dominated through the 90s. And for you guys to come out and end such a streak that has been haunting South Louisiana a long time, and not just that, changed the game forever, that Southeast Louisiana started to become that area again, that they had no fear of going against teams out the north.
Yeah, and then think about this too. Big shout out to the West St. John Rams, the Lutcher Bulldogs. They had won it before us. The day before us, or the game before us. So we was kind of like, hold on now. We can't let them get their shine on without us getting our shine on, But you're right. I never thought about it that way. As far as like the North schools are always winning and everything, I always just, heard Evangel, West Monroe, and that was it really. That was the dominant teams, that was winning it every year. I probably couldn't even name the third school that was always up there. Who?
Neville.
Was Neville 5A or 4A?
Neville was 5A.
4A.
Neville was 5A at the time. They was 5A, then they became 4A. They wound up beating your alma mater in 95. And to me, not trying to hate on that team at all, but to me, maybe one of the luckiest runs I've ever seen of a team getting to a state championship game. Because I'm going to tell you this. I was a junior at St. Aug. We lost to Neville 7-6. If we beat Neville, I don't know. Now, Neville beat Hahnville pretty bad.
35-7.
35. But I'm going to tell you this. If it would have been St. Aug, it would have been worse. Just to be honest. Because St. Aug was loaded at the time. They was really loaded. And their defense led by Raynosh Thompson and also Roland Seymour and Wayne Cordova. I mean, these cats was like loaded to bear, and the offense was really coming together for St. Aug. So at the time, it would have been interesting early, but at the same time, but that was the last time Neville won it all. But there was always a state power. But those were the big three. But then also you can't forget about Washita, and Ruston was pretty good early in the day as well.
Yeah. And I mean, you can't take nothing away from, John Curtis. Everybody, that was the only team that was winning it down here, I think, was John Curtis. and they had probably the best run ever.
Agreed.
Yeah,
Agreed. Indeed. Indeed. And like I said, that was huge there. It really changed a lot and everything else. Now I know senior year. I mean, I thought y'all guys was gonna go back to back.
Yeah.
I
yeah,
really thought you guys was gonna go back to back. It was too bad you came up short against Slidell. And another thing, and looking at history, one of the best. I'm gonna say this: one of the maybe the luckiest 2 weeks that Slidell's ever had, because they beat Old Prairie Walker the week before.
yeah,
A year after they went to the Dome, go over the 5A, had a nice team, and the last few seconds they beat Old Prairie Walker, and then all of a sudden they got y'all in the quarters in the last seconds.
yep.
But but I tell you, that was a very fortunate run and a good run for Slidell. It was good, but man, them 2 weeks, I mean, it must have been a lot of magic.
Right.
They got a question for you, Brian. Would you be interested in coaching your alma mater at Hahnville? That's the question for Mr. Glenn Boyd.
Oh, man. So back in 2017, I was on a coaching staff. I helped those guys coach the quarterbacks. I mean, I would, but I think I'm not ready for the. I pretty much got to go back to school and get a teaching certification or whatever. I mean, I coached 5 years in college and didn't need a teaching certification to coach. So if there was a way around that, I wouldn't mind. I wouldn't mind at all.
Wow, that would be big in itself. When I'm gonna ask you a little something about the future of Hahnville in a second, but looking at your years and everything, what you can say about having that winning record and being maybe one of the two, really the second winningest quarterback in the history of Hahnville, because you have only one loss in the state championship behind the leader. And to me, my pick as the greatest Hahnville Tiger I ever seen, Clifton White, who won 2 state championships and had a big time winning record in the 90s for Hahnville. But what you can say about that time having that winning record, but not just that, getting a state championship over the Landrys and Nick Cannon, having them bragging rights there.
Hey, and look, I talk with Dewan pretty much every day, and I always throw that at him, and he hated. He hated. I might text him, first thing in the morning, you know, tell the uh the state championship quarterback good morning, and he'll have a few choice words for me, but but you know, I clown him all the time. I clown him all the time about it, and it's funny. We like to spar against each other with certain things here and there. But man, you said something just now about Clifton. You said the best player.
The best player to me ever to play at Hahnville.
Ooh,
Look, I was waiting because
In my
that's a huge debate, bro. You don't know
that
how big a debate is.
I know how big a debate is.
that's
I understand that somebody said poop. Here's my thing. And the reason why I say Clifton White. Go back and look at his film and look at his numbers. His numbers was ridiculous for
throwing.
who he was throwing and running. But then on top of that, besides his skills, for
Uh-huh.
him to have the record he has and 2 state championships, especially bouncing back after losing to St. Aug. So for them to come back and win it all the next year. So, looking at how his body of work and everything, he's like right there, my number one. I would put you, Bryant Lee, number 2, and Puka number 3 after what he's done at Hahnville. I mean, that was an amazing run that Puka and I know you probably seen yourself, Brian, seeing Puka how he handled his business at Hahnville. What a run he made to carry that team to the dome itself.
Yeah, but this the not, and I Clifton was one of those guys that I looked up to as well. I was a lot younger then, but when I got to Hahnville, Clifton was there. He was there. He would show up every now and then, and just kind of give us a little word and everything. But one of those state championship games, Clifton only threw the ball 4 times. He was 3 for 4. And,
It is
and
true.
and he finally cracked 1,000 yards the last in the championship game. That's what he went over 1,000 yards passing that game. So I don't know about that. I don't know about, man. Nick was the purest form of a quarterback that Hahnville has ever seen.
And I've seen a lot of film on Nick, and I can agree with. I mean, all around like a passer and stuff, and everything as a quarterback. I mean, I ain't gonna lie, Nick was really good. He was
Yeah,
really good for what he was, and it was surprising to me that Hahnville really, like when Hahnville lost to West Monroe, that really surprised me because I really thought they had a chance to go up there and get that win. But it's always
They,
tough to go up there. It's
they were
always
winning at
tough.
halftime. They were winning at halftime.
Mm-hmm.
yeah. But when you talk about the greatest player to ever play at Hahnville, you gotta I gotta put Puka up there. Puka, probably the best player to ever play at Hahnville. And then there was a guy by the name of Mark Young.
Mark Young. Oh, Mark Young. Go ahead.
Man, Mark Young did some stuff, and he didn't even look fast, but when you lined up next to him and you ran next to him, it was like he did it so effortlessly. Like it was just watching him practice was amazing. Like he did stuff at practice, you would look like, man, what the hell? How did he catch that ball? Like, did he use a hand to catch the ball? But I would definitely put Puka, Puka, Mark Young, the Darius Reynolds, the Craig Turners, the Kendall Josephs,
Yeah.
the News, man, them dudes. Clifton had some running backs with him now.
Rondell Honor was
Yeah,
real nice. He was real nice. And then we can't forget about the Guidry brothers. I mean, the way they kicked the ball and everything, the special teams was amazing back then for Hahnville. So, we can't forget about those guys. With you teaching me, you and Jared is teaching me about some history on
Dominique.
Hahnville, man. It's crazy to know more about it from a standpoint of history in itself. So I really appreciate that. It's really cool.
Yeah.
But Brian, I gotta ask you this about Southern right quick. You took your talents to Southern University. How I felt making the adjustment from Coach Lou Valden to the legendary Pete Richardson.
Man, it's a lot. The whole Southern situation is a funny story, and a lot of people don't know that story. But when I first got to Southern, I was like the 7th quarterback on the roster. And
Wow.
yeah. When I got there, and I didn't know they had that many quarterbacks on the roster, but man, they recruited, I think it might have been like 3 or 4 freshmen the same year as me. And I was like, man, I'm about to just outshine. I'm gonna try to outshine all of them, really, and do my thing. My time with Coach Rich, well, my time with Coach Lou was, pretty much they prepared us. And there's another guy, Coach Valden. I had in high school, I had Coach Valden, I had Coach John Lambert, and Coach Silver, Mike Silver. Those guys prepared us. I spoke earlier about that Camp Living Water, man, that was some of the worst times ever in football. But now looking back at it, it prepared me for college, for those hard times that I had ahead of me. Um, getting to Coach Rich. Coach Rich was so finessed in everything that he did and so old school, but man, he was like a doctor on the football field as far as coaching. You know, he knew what to tell you, when to tell you, and how to tell you. You know, they basically gave me the same message, but they just had different deliveries that they gave me. It's almost kind of like the mail system that we got today. You know, you can get a package from Amazon, UPS, regular mail, but you still go get that package. You still that's kind of how it was with Coach Rich. You know, he always knew, you know, what to tell me and how to calm me down. My first year at Southern, like I said, I was the seventh person on the roster. Coach Rich brought me into the office. He said, "Look, I'm a red shirt you, but this is what I want out of you." And he had a list of goals that he wanted me to accomplish my red shirted year. And man, a lot of those things were like, man, I'm 180 pounds. He want me to get to 205 pounds in order to play quarterback for him. And he basically the blueprint, there was a guy named Quincy Reshard. Quincy Reshard was like amazing. I look at Quincy Reshard as one of the greatest quarterbacks to ever play at Southern. And Coach Rich basically gave Quincy was the blueprint. I didn't know that at the time that all of those things, those goals that Coach Rich had for me, was basically Quincy Reshard. on paper, you know, it was Quincy Reshard. Quincy Reshard was about 205 pounds, but when he got to Southern, he was only 180 pounds. So like everything, like he strategized those things. Like if I could get B Lee to, you know, come out the next year looking like Quincy Reshard, we got a future quarterback on our hands. And I didn't know that at the time, but man, all I did my freshman year was literally work out, go to class, and practice. And my redshirted freshman year, I still didn't start, but I was third on the roster. And I had, you know, bumped a few people down and everything. And man, injuries happened. Uh, there was an offensive coordinator coaching change that happened, and that offensive coordinator at the time was Mark Orlando. He brought me into the office and he told me, he said, "Look, Coach Rich gave you a game plan. You followed that game plan. Since you've been here, it's your time to shine." My first play at Southern was a quarterback power. Now, it's funny because in high school, I never had to run the football at quarterback. I had some horses behind me that took care of that. All I was there for is to throw the ball. But one of my favorite quarterbacks to watch at that time was Vince Young, and I just patterned my game off of Vince Young. Vince Young ran the ball, so at practice, I'm killing them running the ball, and I'm like, man, these people want me to run the ball in college, man. Them dudes big as hell out there, man, and they fast. I I never thought I was the fastest person on the team, but the coaches they seen something that I didn't see. And man, the first play that I ever had at Southern was a quarterback power. I don't know if I was just moving fast because I was fast or I was moving fast because I was scared. But I scored on it. It was like 40 yards out. And ever since then, they was like, man, look, you gonna be our running quarterback. And I'm like, running quarterback? Man, man, these coaches don't know what they talking about, man. But it was all a setup to where, all I had to do is, tune in and learn as much as possible and just trust the process. Coach Rich he was detailed on all of that stuff. And I mean, that's what made him the legendary, Hall of Fame coach. But it's definitely they and just to piggyback off your question, you know, they it, they attacked me as a quarterback, as a player, the same. Well, the message was the same. The message was the same, but the delivery was a little different from both of those guys.
Absolutely. I'm actually just one more thing, and George Peppers, you're gonna take over with the questions. Um, let's be real here. We asked somebody a couple weeks ago on this question, but I know you got close ties to this particular player. And I asked him that. He gave a good answer, very good explanation. Gotta ask you this.
Mm-hmm.
Ryan Paraloo. We know he's doing well and everything else, coaching and all that stuff. Now, he had a time at LSU and everything else. All the stuff that came with it. Do you think Ryan Paraloo would have been better off at the University of Texas instead of LSU, knowing what the situation could have been at Texas if he would have went?
Man, Ryan Ryan could have been. I think so. I think Ryan could have went anywhere and got on the field. I had never seen nobody that just played quarterback so easy like he played quarterback. And we would go to different camps, and we grew up together playing all-star basketball, baseball together and stuff like that, or against each other. But man, he could have went anywhere and got on the field. Now, being away from home and away from all of the drama that was at home, maybe that would have helped him. He didn't have that access to being able to just drive back home and get into trouble or whatever the case was at the time. Um, but definitely he could have played anywhere. Uh, like I said, he's the best quarterback I've ever seen. Ever seen. With my own eyes. With my own.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And funny story, Nick Saban, you know, we had our recruiting process at Hahnville where, the coaches would come in and the college coaches would come in and, we go to the coaches. And Nick Saban is in at the time. We had a guy by the name of Rashad Roussel, who is probably one of the best defensive players at Hahnville to ever play at Hahnville High School as well, played D tackle. We knew that, Shada was that guy that coaches was coming to see. So Nick Saban in there one day, this was Nick Saban was at LSU. And we had just finished, beating Ryan Paraloo, my junior year, my senior year, Nick Saban coming in there and, getting the eye test on us and stuff like that. Well, Nick Saban said, he asked Coach Lou Valden, how do you think I can get Ryan Paraloo to sign with LSU? And Nick Saban kind of was like, Coach Valden was kind of like, man, do you see I got the guy that beat Ryan Paraloo in here last year and outplayed Ryan Paraloo in that game against each other? I got that guy sitting here right in front of my face. And, I think Nick Saban kind of seen that in Coach Valden's eyes that he was like, man, are you kidding me? Like, I know Ryan Perlou is the #1 player in the nation, but man, you can sign him and my quarterback.
Wow.
Oh, man.
Yeah, Nick Saban came in there and asked him, like, look, I need Ryan Perlou. How can I get him? Man, you asking the wrong coach.
Wow. George Peppers, the floor is
Sir.
yours.
Yes, sir. Brian, first off, thank you for making the time to join us. It's been very entertaining to this point. You talked about this '03 Hahnville team as being a very resilient and a gutsy team. I think a characteristic of that team was the semifinal game in the '03 run for the title when y'all played #1 Karen Crow, who dropped 56 points on Jesuit, scored 139 points in their 3 playoff wins, and was up on y'all 14-0 before you could blink. What was it about that game? What turned that game around to you? And you guys only gave up 7 points the rest of the night and wound up blowing them out 42-21. Talk about how that game really started for y'all and how it finished. And I think that to me was more of a truer testament of y'all guts and characteristic.
That was definitely a game where a lot of people overlooked, but there was a key play in that game where we blocked the punt. Brandon Sam, he was number
Mm-hmm.
27 for us. He played outside
Sure.
the defensive end with whatever he played, but he picked up the ball and he just ran through everybody. He stiff armed everybody. He was a great athlete for us. And he scored on that block punt. I think that was the game changing play right there that kind of sparked us into winning that game. I think that game is online as well, if I'm not mistaken. But it was that play that sparked our offense and gave us that fuel that we needed to overcome that adversity of that game. That was probably the second best play I had ever seen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, considering, I mean, that was the #1 team in the state. They ransacked a lot of people, put 56 on Jesuit. Now, fast forwarding to the final, I mean, you guys have already beat this game up about Evangel. They were a 2-time champion going for a three-peat. And you already talked, and I was there too. And uh, I thought y'all had a shot at it. I mean, Evangel was the favorite, 7-step drop and whatever, shotguns and whatnot. I want to talk about Lou Valdan though, because he taught me at Everett early in my years at John. I'm a John Everett grad, class of '90, and Lou was there before he went to Shaw and then wound up at Hahnville. But talk about Lou Valdan, the person and the coach. Talk about how he molded you in your young years.
I mean, he had great coaches. He had built a great staff. I
Mhm.
had Mike Silver as my quarterback coach, and you know, Coach Silver had came from John Everett as well.
Yeah.
Where he coached the Cardell Stewarts. You know, he molded Cardell Stewart. So he kind of had a game plan. And if you think about it, man, I mean, look at those coaches. Look at the players that Coach Mike Silver had. Quarterbacks.
Mm-hmm.
He had some great quarterbacks too. So
Ernest Callaway.
whatever he did, however he coached us, it was working. So why stop?
Exactly.
um, but I mean, Coach Valden, he kind of stayed to the defensive side when coaching, the individual players. He was a defensive guy, so he kind of
Mhm.
built that trust in Coach John Lambert, who was our offensive coordinator, and Coach Mike Silver, who was the quarterback coach at the time. He kind of built, those guys built, their trust, and he just kind of let them go and hey, look, I give y'all all the trust in the world. I give y'all all the power in the world. It was one specific time where we wanted to go for it on 4th down. I never forget that. And Coach Valder said, I don't care if it's fourth in the inch of my you know what. Point the ball. And we all kind of looked at each other like, and matter of fact, it was the Karen Crow game when he told us that. And we kind of looked at each other. He was like, man, what did you just tell us? But it kind of just looped us up, and it that was one of his technique and maneuvers that he was going to tell us at the time, and it just kind of boosted us. But Coach Valden, great guy. I spoke with the last time I spoke with Coach Valden may have been a couple of months ago. But I seen him last at the Hahnville Destrehan game last year at Destrehan, and man, he's one of those guys. He's gonna walk up, get your handshake, and he go hug you, and he just knows that we got history together. So he's always showing love. Great guy.
Yes, he was. I mean, is. Excuse me, I'm saying was. Is. Again, he taught me at Everett, and he used to try to, a little story I'll tell before we continue. Coach Val then used to always try to hit me with sports trivia, mostly with college nicknames. And I used to always get him. And he would come up with FCS schools. Back then it was it's still 1AA, but now it's called the FCS. And he would hit me with all that, and I would always answer him, and he'd be like, man, I can't get you, you know. But let's talk about Hahnville's program now. It seems like it's on the backslide. As an alumnus, I would imagine it's extremely disappointing. What do you think it's going to take to get that program back to Hahnville status? Where last one out of boutique, turn the lights off, let's go to the dome. What's it going to take to get that program back? Because it seems like Destrehan has taken control of that River Parish district, and y'all not where y'all were years ago. Admittedly, let's be honest, y'all haven't been at that spot. But what's it going to take to get Hahnville back to that status?
Well, I think Coach Daniel Luquette is doing a great job with what he has, and I've stated this on Facebook a few times, but I kind of hate to spark big arguments and debates on Facebook. It's not my thing, but I think in order to help rebuild our program, we have to do better with our rec department, tackle football. I mean, I remember me growing up, I started playing tackle football when I was 5. So from the age of 5 to the age of 12 is like what, 8 years? 7
Mm-hmm.
8 years.
7.
That's tackle football, and just being used to having a helmet on my head, having shoulder pads, feeling the weight of shoulder of being fully padded as a football player, getting hit, knowing how to get hit, knowing how to hit somebody else. The fundamental part of it is what was very key. And I remember just growing up playing tackle football within the parish, and Saturdays at Landry and at Harry Hurst, it's thousands of people out there watching recreation football, tackle football. Well, we don't have that here anymore. And a lot of the guys at Destrehan, them guys, they could afford to play, travel football, tackle football. They can afford that. Well, on this side of the parish, they might not be able to afford, to play travel football. And then we got to go so far to do it. Whereas, if you're in St. Rose, man, you can play in Kenner until you're 12 years old. So by the time those guys get to the high school, those high school coaches at Destrehan don't have to teach them how to tackle the simple things. Well, you can't put all of that pressure on Daniel Luquette and his coaching staff if they got to teach your kid how to put on a helmet or how to tackle. Like you can have 4 or 5 guys that go off and play travel football, but you need the interior offensive line and defensive linemen to, especially offensive line. If you don't have those guys, learning how to block and, the basics of football, then it's gonna be hard on your high school coaches. I don't care who you bring in there to be your head coach. So I think our rec department has to do a better job of organizing, tackle football back into the parish at all age groups, not just stopping at 10 years old. It's still you missing, from 10 years old to middle school, you missing those years. So man, I look at John Curtis, right? And like now I'm not coaching, so me and my dad will pick up on Fridays and we go wherever they going at, and I'm in the stands just watching football. I don't have to worry and stress about who wins and who loses. I'm just out there enjoying the game, and even though I look at it still as a coach, I'm still able to enjoy the game. But I look at teams like schools like John Curtis. It's so easy for our schools, our middle schools, to adapt to what the high school level is doing. If Daniel gives J.B. Martin and R.K. Smith his playbook, all they have to do is run his playbook. By the time those 7th and 8th graders get to high school, they at least know the basics of what's being ran at the Hahnville at the high school level. So they already ahead of the game. That's what John Curtis doing. Yeah. You take what John Curtis do and you use it to your advantage. JT Curtis gave everybody in the state of Louisiana the blueprint. You just got to have those middle school coaches willing to accept it. And I think that might be the issue as well. I think RK is doing it. They got a great job at it, but I don't think JB is in tune to that yet. But you don't win much, but bragging rights at the middle school level anyway. And once you run with the high school running and make and help set these kids up for the future.
Considering Destiny and Hahnville is one of the more underrated rivalries in the whole state of Louisiana, I've been to a couple of those games in media circles, and the intensity of that rivalry is just palpable. It's really unmatched. Wouldn't you agree, Bryant, in that respect, that we need to get Destiny and Hahnville back to that level? I mean, Destiny already elite. You're right about Hahnville, and you answered it so eloquently about what's going on, and I've not heard anybody say it that way. I've asked friends of mine in the media, what do you think's going on with Hahnville? And they're like, I don't know. But you being in tune, being an alumnus, that's a perfect answer. But I want to talk about now, my next part for you is about your recruiting process. What made you ultimately decide to go to Southern? And what was it really close with any other schools that were looking at you?
Yeah, it was pretty close. And it's crazy that you asked me that, because there was a guy by the name of Coach Miller, that was at Southern and was recruiting me. He recruited a few cousins of mine that came from West St. John, that were family and everything, and I just kind of was in tune with him, and he never lied to me about anything, and he just kept it bluntly honest with me. And I respected that. I had been coached by some of the hardest coaches that would tell you any and everything to get you to understand what was going on at the time. But Coach Miller was the guy who really kind of took that step forward and said, I want you to be, the next great quarterback to play at Southern. And my redshirted freshman year at Hahnville, at Southern, we had a offensive coordinator swap. Mark Orlando took over David Oliver's position. David Oliver was a great offensive coordinator. He had just finished coaching Sean King at Tulane, and he was at Southern then when I first got there. But the running back coach at the time, who stepped in Coach Oliver's place, told me that my junior he was at the state championship game and watched me win the state championship as a Hahnville Tiger, and he broke down my film as a that game, and he was like, man, you threw 4 touchdowns that game. Those touchdowns, how comfortable were you throwing those touchdowns? I was like, man, I was pretty comfortable. He was like, well, let's add that to, our offense or whatever. But he said right then and there, when he was sitting in those stands, that he wanted me to be a quarterback at Southern. So Mark Orlando and Coach Miller really did a great job at recruiting me. But Coach Miller's wife at the time, his wife ended up having cancer. So he dropped off the staff mid-recruiting season for me. So I hadn't heard from Southern in forever. And I'm like, man, they just offered me and I hadn't heard from them. Well, I don't know how in tune y'all are with Southern football, but the head coach that's there right now, Eric Dooley, took over recruiting me. And I'm talking about an amazing person. He's probably the best coach I've ever had. He was able to, be a leader to us. And also he knew how to calm me down in situations when I was at Southern in key situations, But he took over, and man, Coach Dooley came to my house, and man, it was just things that he was doing. I was like, man, this coach here, I thought Coach Miller was a better recruit, was the best recruiting coach, coordinator that I had at the time. But man, Coach Dooley just stepped in, and man, he made me want to go to Southern even more. And it was one thing that Coach Dooley did. He prayed over our food. My mama had cooked for everybody, she wanted to cook for all of the coaches and stuff. And he was, instead of me, praying over the food, Coach Dooley stepped up and prayed over the food. My mama I opened my eyes mid prayer, and I'm looking at my mama, and my mama doing the same thing. She looking at me like, man, I like him.
Love that.
But
love that.
He took over the recruiting process, and man, they just made it so easy for me, to step in and just commit. And when I told him I committed, I don't know if I was more happier than him, but man, ever since then, he was calling me every day. Hey, you need anything? You okay? Man, if you ever want to talk about anything, just let me know. And he just made me feel like I was home.
That's awesome. Let me say this. My next question leads this way. You've been blessed to play in 2 very high atmosphere rivalries. Obviously, Hahnville Veteran we touched on. Of course, the next one when you were at Southern, at the Bayou Classic. I mean, the spectra of that week and the spectra of the game and the battle of the bands. And look, let's not lie, it's a cultural event. You got a lot of women over there, and that's all great. But talk about that atmosphere, the Bayou Classic. I mean, people look at that great game and it's like, oh, it's just 2 mid-level FCS programs, but still, it's a big, 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 big deal in the state of Louisiana. Talk about your experiences in that game and basically how you prepared for a game like that more so than other games throughout the year. It seems like there's a little bit more oomph in practice in that week.
Yeah, it definitely is. It's Thanksgiving week,
Mm-hmm.
and you don't go home for Thanksgiving. Coach Rich
Nope.
is feeding every single player on his team. He's gonna feed you. He ain't letting you go home. But so 2005, when I first got to Southern, our first Bayou Classic game was in Houston.
Katrina.
Katrina.
Yeah, because of Katrina. So it wasn't the same. It was a big game. It drew a lot of big people, a big crowd. A lot of celebrities would always show up to the games and walk the sidelines and stuff like that. But it just wasn't. It just wasn't the feel of being at the Bayou Classic. That was my freshman year. Well, my redshirted freshman year, we brought it back to the Superdome. We brought it back to New Orleans. Well, I had just came off of playing the worst game, the second worst game of my life, with that Destrehan game and playing against Arkansas Pine Bluff, where I had got my first start and I just played terrible. I wasn't prepared for the game, and I thought I had lost my starting position actually for the Bayou Classic. I couldn't beat Arkansas Pine Bluff in a game that only had maybe 25,000 people at the game. Ain't no way these coaches go trust me to play in front of 65,000 people for the Bayou Classic. So we played that game against Pine Bluff that Saturday. Well, Sunday, Coach Rich used to have us practicing after the game. It was a light practice, but we really ran 12 minutes straight. Just to, that was just one of his philosophies. I got to stretch you out. I got to, that's going to help you recover and things like that. Well, the Coach Orlando calls me into the office and he was like, man, what you so down for? And I'm like, man, I know I lost my starting spot. That's what you're calling me in here for. And he looked at me and he got so pissed off at me. And he said, lost your spot? Man, are you out your damn mind? Man, you are my starting quarterback. And I'm sitting up there looking at it. I'm a redshirted freshman. I'm still a kid. I feel like. He was like, man, you better change your damn attitude. Like, he really, dug into me. Like, you better change your damn attitude. Man, you our starting quarterback. I ain't gonna give up on you, so you better not give up on yourself. Like, he just really dug into me, And man, I'm sitting in his office and I'm like, man, I'm almost in tears because I thought I didn't lost my spot, That's what you bringing me in there for. But man, he had a great game plan for me that my redshirted freshman year. Great game plan for me. And I had guys like Gerard Landry there who we call him G Money. G Money, he was another leader on our team where, I just kind of piggyback off of him. He made me feel comfortable. He was like, hey man, look, man, just throw the ball to me. and I'm gonna make you look good. And man, I kid you not, I threw the ball to him, and I don't know. I'm always stay humble and say that those coaches, they knew exactly how to game plan to make me feel comfortable. So my red shirt, that was 2006. I actually won the MVP in 2006 as a redshirted freshman for the Bayou Classic, and they still acknowledge that still to this day. But just speaking on the whole game in general, is press conferences that you got to go to, is a ton of meetings. You really mentally drained already, trying to, stick with the game plan, and then you got to go off and do all of these other things. But it was definitely a culture shock because it's Friday night, the Battle of the Bands. Coach Rich wasn't letting us do none of that stuff. I didn't go to a Battle of the Band until I was not on the team. But just Coach Richard was so old school, man. He knew we was gonna get into trouble and not sleep. So he kept us locked in the hotel, and he had security. paid for extra security to make sure we wasn't getting out of the out of the hotel. And like he knew what he was doing.
Yeah.
He knew what he was doing. But it was definitely another game. The Bayou Classic was great. That's kind of like the commercial of classic games. But man, it was one game that I still feel like it's a bigger rivalry, but it doesn't get notoriety the Bayou Classic gets. But you see when Southern plays against Jackson State,
Yeah.
it's the same amount of people that go to that Southern Jackson State game, and especially if you play Southern Jackson State at Jackson State, they got some of the worst fans ever. Southern and Grambling, we go beef during that week, but that's the week of the Bayou Classic. We beefing with each other. We hate them. Any other time, man, we hate Jackson State every week. I hope Jackson State lose. We could be playing against Mississippi Valley or Texas Southern. Man, I sure hope Jackson State lose though. They got some of the worst fans ever, and they would call me the Jackson State killer because I always played good against Jackson State. I don't know why, but 2008, a quick story. 2008, we playing against Jackson State at Jackson State, and we go out for warm-ups. But at Jackson State, they know what they're doing. They got general admission. They let their fans go in an hour before the game while the team's warming up. And they calling you everything but the child of God while you warming up. And there was one instance where, them fans, they do their research on a lot of people. And it was one instance where we were warming up and I'm throwing the football and, just trying to get in my zone. And one of the fans, they yelled my name. It was a group of fans. They were yelling my name, and I just so happened to turn around. And the receivers, they was telling me, "B, don't turn around, don't turn around, don't turn around." And I turned around, and they told me I was an LSU reject.
Damn, that's cold-blooded.
Right. And they really just dogged me that whole warm-up. So I was like, you know what? Boy, they only add fuel to their fire. I'm about to tear them up. And I went off that game. And every touchdown I scored that game, I would run to that specific side and let them know I want y'all now. I would point in the stands at them and everything. And I'm usually not like that, but it was just them Jackson State games that would just get under my skin. And I'm like, bro, y'all not even beating us and y'all talking trash to us. Like, why?
They might not read the scoreboards well back then when you were there. So
Yeah.
just saying. I mean, maybe they got a little literacy problem with scoreboards. Jackson
Right.
State. See, I'm helping you out. My last
Right.
question before I turn it over to Jared. You said you coached for a little while, and now you're enjoying yourself watching games on Friday night. Have you ever had the temptation to get back into coaching, or are you just content where you're at right now?
Yeah. I mean, I would. I don't think the wife would let me though.
Oh no, got to get that permission, right?
Yeah. You know
I
what?
feel you.
I understand why she says that. I understand why she thinks that. It's the coaching industry is it's rough. You could be there one day and the next day you're out of there. I mean, I don't know about high school football. I know it's more lenient with coaching at the high school level. It's a bunch of different high schools around here, but I just enjoyed college football coaching. I enjoyed the recruiting process. That's like the fun. That's way better than teaching a class, going out and recruiting and, just, getting to meet new people and stuff like that, new high school coaches that I've never met before. It was the recruit. I enjoyed their recruiting more than anything. Yeah. But I don't, like I said, I don't know if the wife would let that slide.
Oh, yes, indeed. Back to me. My last question to you. What is it the most you miss about playing football?
Oh, man. I think it was one thing. It was one thing that I learned from guys like DeJuan and LaRon at the quarterback position. Them guys were physical. I remember playing football games where if I didn't get hit, then I didn't feel like I was really in the game. So just the physicality of just playing football, playing quarterback, and I know the quarterback is not supposed to get hit. That's the goal. But man, Coach Rich used to be so mad at me for games because like I was a dual threat quarterback, at Southern, and he knew that I needed to be physical. So I would, everybody know what the zone read is, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they would call zone read for me. I would look at the running back and say, I'm giving you the ball. And the defensive end that I would be reading, I'm just licking my lips there. I'm like, well, I'm about to tear you up. I'm about to cut the can I curse on here?
Not really, but go ahead.
I'm about to cut the hell out of you. So I would give the ball to the running back and I would go and cut the hell out of that defensive end that I'm supposed to be reading. And until then, I can't be in the game. So if our first three plays are pass plays and I don't get hit, hey coach, man, we gotta run the inside zone. We gotta do something because I gotta get hit. I ain't been hit yet, and if I'm not getting hit, I gotta go and hit somebody. And Coach Rich used to get so mad at me, and it was a look that Coach Rich would give me, and he'll be like, "Boy, you do that one more time, boy, I'm gonna run onto the field and tackle you." And look, Coach Rich played. A lot of people don't know, but Coach Rich played a lot of years in the NFL, and that was back when Coach, they did some crazy stuff back then.
Yeah.
And they didn't have too many rules. And Coach Rich used to always hit people with their forearm straight to the face mask. And he used to always joke and clown with me, but I knew he was serious. But he would, boy, I hit you with one of these, boy, and I'll knock you out, boy. If you do that again, I'm knocking you out, Holmes. That's what he used to call me. He used to say. But and then he used to say it in that squeaky voice too. But it would I definitely miss like just being having that being in the zone and just being physical with everything, and just the camaraderie that we had. It's not one teammate that I've ever played with that I can't call and say just what's up to him. So I felt like, that was me being a great leader, growing to be a great leader. I just miss that camaraderie as well.
I totally understand. Bryant Lee, my good friend, man, we want to thank you for joining us, man. We truly appreciate it. It was a lot of fun, my friend.
Man, I appreciate y'all having me. I appreciate y'all considering me a legend, even though I'm like I may be the third best quarterback at Hahnville. I might be the third or fourth best quarterback at Southern. I'm like, man, why they want me to be, be on the, they
But
got a ton of other people that y'all can put on the show. But I want to thank y'all. I appreciate y'all for having me. I followed every social media that I seen, so I'll definitely be tuned in and watching the future shows. Definitely, I'll go back and watch old shows that y'all have too as well.
Appreciate it, man.
And
and Brian, you
appreciate
you're
that.
you're 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 a guy that made a lot of history and everything. So trust me, you're a legend in our eyes and
Definitely.
everything. And
Appreciate it.
and
One,
trust me, you done some great things. So that's
one,
why you're on. And you mentioned about Jackson State. You said they're bad fans. They're also ungrateful. The beatings are about to return this season.
oh, definitely, definitely, definitely. And love, it's one thing that now looking, I'm of course done playing football. One day maybe I'll get a chance to be good enough to be in, maybe somebody's Hall of Fame one day.
I say so, my man. I say so, definitely, man.
Me too.
Yeah.
All right, my
Hey,
friend. You take care.
all right, appreciate y'all.
Definitely, man.
All right.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Bryant Lee. Hey, look, let me just say this, man. He started 2 years for Hahnville, right? Only one loss. And you think about the quarterbacks that came before him who didn't get to the championship game. And he led that team to the championship game and beat perennial power Evangel. And also never lost a district game to Ryan Perilou, who was the number one player in the nation. He beat him every time. Bryant Lee is a Hahnville legend, ladies and gentlemen, in the state of Louisiana. And then the things he did at Southern, yes, he's a legend. He may not say that for himself, but I'm sorry, I think I can speak for all three of us. Yeah,
Mhm.
Bryant Lee is definitely a legend. What do you say, VK?
I agree. I'm kind of surprised he's not in the Hahnville Athletics Hall of Fame because of what he did. You know what I'm saying? Because you look at what he's done in them 2 years and everything. Like I said, looking at the other quarterbacks and all that, you're looking at the history of the school. He's the number two winning quarterback in the history of Hahnville. He should be in the Hall of Fame because of what he's done. But also, you look at him at Southern, he had some really good years, and you look at it, it was a big time trend going on with the local players, including River Parishes. Because you look at the past other quarterbacks that played at Southern and started, like Sam George, they used to play at John Ehret High School. You look at Terrence Levy, rest in peace to him. Old
Yeah.
Perry Walker. You look at Dre Joseph, rest in peace. I mean, he played at West St. John. So with Brian Lee, he kept things going as the tradition of those Southeast Louisiana quarterbacks going to Southern, making an impact and handling his business. And I think Bryant really did a great job making the adjustment and playing in the really couple of the last days of Pete Richardson in his legendary years over at Southern, and we truly miss a time like Pete Richardson in itself, because and Mark Orlando, I mean, the office man, I tell you, his I'm gonna say this, not bad of an offensive coordinator, but I don't know if he was like the offensive coordinator in the beginning, you know what I'm saying, over at Southern when Eric Randall was at quarterback. He had
Yeah.
that racehorse. Oh, that was amazing in itself. But when he said Christian Richard, that's a good name, and I could definitely say he proved a lot of people wrong. He even proved me wrong at the time, but he's one of the winningest quarterbacks between him and also let's say whoa, God dog it. What was the quarterback I just see? I'm getting old.
You said a bunch of quarterbacks, man.
Eric, it was a quarterback that I was saying
Eric Randall.
Eric Randall. Thank you.
There we go.
Between him
You're
and
welcome.
Eric Randall and Richard, you know what I'm saying, those are the two best ever at Southern. But I tell you, Brian Lee made an impact at Hahnville and at Southern.
Yes, sir. GP, what are your thoughts?
I mean, Bryant Lee showed you just now his humility and humbleness by
Yep.
saying what he said to us. That's what that tells me. Look, numbers, again, I said this last night, numbers don't lie. And we talk about who they beat in the state championship, and I brought up the Karen Crow game for a reason because that team was legit fire that year. They scored 139 in the first 3 rounds of the playoffs, got a 14-zip lead on Hahnville. And you're thinking, well, gee, young team, bright lights, and all this, they can't make it back. But they were a team of destiny, and Bryant Lee found a way back, and he said, just my point is that, through all that, you won a lot, my man. You won a lot. You lost. You didn't even lose to Ryan Perrilou, who was arguably one of the goats of Louisiana football. Now,
Yes.
granted, could he have done the collegiate choices or whatnot? VK mentioned about he could have gone somewhere else. Sure. I mean, he could have, but he chose what he chose, and it is what it is. That's the story, and that's the stick. That's how you stick to it. But Bryant Lee is a legend to me, and I don't know if there's any foolishness going on, political backdoor politics or something to keep that man out of any Hall of Fame. River Parishes, Hahnville High School. He at least should have more than that, at least that to me. And what did he lose? One district game in his years as a starter, I think.
No, zero. This is his
Zero.
only
That's
loss.
right.
His
It's the
own
Slidell playoff game. That's his only loss.
his only
The
loss.
Slidell game. The Slidell game in 2004 in the quarterfinals, which was an airtight battle too.
Yeah, it was.
Those two teams. And they had chances at it, but they just, the fates weren't smiling that day on them as they were in '03. Now, I'm not saying they were lucky or not. I mean, they were legit. They were legit champions. And that's that same year, that same '03 year, we saw John Curtis go down at the hands of Redemptress High School and Jay Lucas. Yeah, I
Yep.
remember that championship game because that preceded the 5A final. It
Yep.
preceded the
Sure
5A
did.
final, and Jay Lucas had that Curtis team licking the Superdome turf in the third quarter. That's how much he wore them people out.
Sure
You
did.
know,
True.
I remember that. I remember that Saturday was like it was yesterday,
Me
and
too.
it was awesome. Look, for those of you that have never been to the Caesar Superdome for high school championship football weekend, y'all don't know what the hell y'all missing. Y'all straight up, y'all don't know what y'all missing. It is well, you could say what you want about 8 championships or whatever the case may be, but still, it's 3 days of the best playing for a ring and watching the passion and watching the aura and the atmosphere. You know, that's why I'm so looking forward to this year more than any other because I feel like New Orleans may have a hellified statement to make this year. And we gonna speak loud this year. I mean, there's New Orleans teams that have legit chances at the Superdome. So we're gonna see, but it's only July, so a lot of things can happen between now and Jamboree week. Um, we might have a little bit of honeymooners action on Jamboree week with Sean saying, "Oh," but that's another story. Between our two great hosts.
Yes, indeed.
Indeed. And I think you look at it, you look at those Renaissance moments, like Brian mentioned about Lutcher, and I believe
How
it
about them
was
dogs?
West St. John winning that title
The
that
night
day,
before. The night before.
night
The
before.
night before,
And you have to think about it. I believe that was like the first time Three River Parish schools won in one day.
Definitely.
There's the first time, and I think in 3 different occasions that multiple River Parish schools winning the state championship. We seen it last year
Yep.
with
mm-hmm.
Destrehan, St. Charles Catholic,
And Lutcher.
and Lutcher. So they came out with the River Parish versus everybody T-shirt, and which
Yes.
was big and everything else. You look at the Renaissance there. You look at the year when South Plaquemines and Bell Chase won on the same day. And I hate to bring. I'm sorry, Jared. I
Oh
had to
man,
bring that up. That was
somebody go get the you know what kicked.
I'm sorry you had to.
Go ahead, man. Go ahead.
He
I
did it
love
on
you.
purpose, Jared boy.
I didn't do it
All
on
right.
purpose. It was a fact. Let it go, my friend. Let it go.
Oh wow!
No,
Oh
Let
my
because
it go.
the
gosh!
Let
Charlotte
it
should have
go, my
won.
friend.
Out of those
Look,
3 years, the Charlotte was supposed to win one. It'd be that one.
look. If I had to let go 7-6 in '95, you can let that go too. I let that go years ago. I'm not bitter anymore. I forgave Neville for what they did and knowing that we won the
Wow.
Dog State Championship. So Gotta let that go, my brother.
Go back to the parties that South Plaque and Bell Chase had together in Black.
Yeah,
they had a bunch of parties.
Exactly. That was a big night there. And then you had the Algiers at Renaissance in itself.
Yes.
And the car, Landry Walker, standing tall, standing together for them to win the championship. And then the ultimate one, we can't forget about this. And I believe, and I'm hoping I'm right on this, George. I believe that was 2008. 2008, when Southeast Louisiana swept all 5 classes to win state titles. That was the year when Destrehan first won it with Jordan Jefferson.
He's right. I forget who they beat that night. Destrehan.
No, he's not right.
About Destrehan?
Jordan won it in 06.
07 and 06.
07 and 06. Okay.
Oh wait, who the heck won in 08? Because Bell Chase and Shaw played the middle game on that Saturday.
Bell Chase and Shaw played in 08. After them was not Destrehan. No. Did Destrehan win 07 and 08?
I'm gonna look it up.
I believe so. We better look at it now.
Because Jordan wasn't on both teams. He's on the previous team. I want to say 07, 08.
Mm-hmm. But while VK's looking it up, Jared, I know I mentioned this earlier. If it's okay with you, I want to pay homage to something that happened. You know, look, tennis is not exactly one of our. And it's not to say we poo-poo on tennis, but we recognize moments, in sport. There's 2 things I want to bring up, one for tennis and one that just happened tonight. Tennis first, because that happened earlier this morning. Christopher Eubanks, for those of you that don't know, is an African-American player, 27 years old, played in the Wimbledon quarterfinals today against Daniil Medvedev, who's one of the best players in the world. Bar none. One of the best. I mean, it's Novak. Medvedev is right there with him. He had a 2-1 lead, had a shot to win, finished this thing in the 4th set. It went to a breaker, and Medvedev got the break. But, when you have your chances against that kind of guy and you don't finish it, you're going to get punished. And he got punished in the 5th set, 6-1. But I want to pay tribute to Christopher Eubanks because it was an incredible run this fortnight. He knocked out 2 legit top 10 players to get to the quarterfinal, and Cameron Norrie, who is Great Britain's hope, and Stefanos Tsitsipas, the Greek player that's ranked in the top 5. He took both of them out to get to this quarterfinal. Big ups to you, Christopher. Hardcourt season coming up. You know what? You learned a lot this fortnight. You'll do well at the U.S. Open. Just manage your expectations, and if you've ever watched this man's interviews, that guy, he's got it. As far as how he handles himself. The second thing I want to mention tonight, the ESPY Awards are tonight. It's the deadest day in sports because the All-Star game was last night. The ESPYs are tonight. The Pat Tillman Award was presented for courage. Damar Hamlin gets up there and presents the award himself to the Buffalo Bills training staff for saving his life. I have not seen the clip yet, but that easily, and I know right now, I'm going to straight tell y'all, tears are going to fly because that has to be one of the most emotional presentations ever, because that man was dead twice in that game against Cincinnati. Twice they had to revive him before they took him off the field into the hospital and sent him to the hospital. And for this moment to happen, I'm going to watch it when we get done and probably shed a few tears because that to me is one of the this is why we love sports. When you have moments like this is why we do what we do, and we can talk about something like this.
Very much agreed. It's huge. That's huge. That I actually found it.
I found it too, but go ahead. And
I'm right. 2008, Southeast Louisiana swept all 5 championships. South Plaquemines beat South Plaquemines. They beat Christian Light 62-16 in 1A. 2A, John Curtis beat Evangel 35-21. 3A, Lutcher beat Notre Dame 17-0. In 4A, Bell Chase beat the Eagles of Shaw 28-7.
Oh, wow. Stress that out.
And Destrehan beat West Monroe 14-3. Winwick Smothers was the quarterback. The defense carried him. So that was maybe the biggest banner year ever for Southeast Louisiana.
We did that game on GSO, the Destrehan West Monroe game, and a defensive touchdown put that thing away. It was 7-3 for the longest, and their defense got a fumble, I think, or a pick six,
It was a, it
but
was a, it
they
was
won.
a it was a fumble return for touchdown.
Okay, fumble six.
Darrington Cinnamore
Cinnamore, yeah.
put it away.
Centimore, who was a high recruit. That dude was a
Alabama.
mass D1 recruit. I think he went to that Alabama, I think.
Yes.
I ain't trying to badmouth. I ain't trying to badmouth, sir. That's blasphemy. No, blasphemy. But no, yeah, I thought he was right. VK was right because I was like, man, I remember we did the Beltane Shaw game and then we wheeled back and did the Destrehan game that night. I was like, man, and I knew it wasn't Jordan Jefferson, but I couldn't for the life of me think of the quarterback. And thank you, VK, for finding it. Was Winrick Smothers. But that
Yeah.
defense was legit. That team's defense was ridiculously good. Destrehan, got Coach Rob. Wasn't Robichaud the coach back then? Yeah,
Robichaud
he
was the
was.
coach.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
Yes.
So
Well,
that was a lot of great renaissances and everything over the years. You just know, but everything, the change and everything started when Hahnville beat Evangel. That was the start of the change because you just knew right then. Back then, it was hard for teams to go up to West Monroe, to Neville, to go win. Now, we ain't got no fear no more. We're going up in there and we beating these people. They're not just beating them, we're smoking them. It's going back to when back in the days in the 80s, and George, you ought to remember this well. John Everett a couple times went up to Northeast Louisiana and beat some teams down.
Yes, we did. Quarterfinals of our state championship when we won it. We went to Ruston and got rid of them, and wound up winning the state title over St. Martinville in easy fashion, 42-7. So yeah, I remember that vividly. But you mentioned that, and look, Warren Easton is Exhibit A. Didn't they go all the way up north and destroy? Who did they destroy? Was it last year?
Neville. A couple years ago, they destroyed Neville.
They went up there and beat somebody last year.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. They beat the brakes off of somebody last year, I think.
No, it was 2 years ago. Actually, no. It was 2 years ago. It was Neville. Neville lost back-to-back years at home. They lost a car in a beatdown, and then Easton came in there the next year and got him. They popped him twice.
Yeah,
twice in a row.
they got is what happened.
Exactly, and I was the one that predicted that Carl was going to go up there to Neville and win that game. I predicted that.
I don't know about you, Jared, but boy, when he mentioned the 08.
I got it. Like
Talk
I said,
to me.
Easton went up there last year and beat a team. And you know who that team was? It was Ruston. They won 25-19. Week one. Ruston's only loss until they played Destrehan in the Dome. That win is what really put Warren Easton as the number one team in the Division I Select. That win right there.
That's true, but we're talking about the playoffs. That was a big
I know.
Wait.
I wasn't specifically on the playoffs. I was not.
You talking about overall? Gotcha.
In general, yes.
Gotcha. In general, yes.
I don't know about you, Jared, but when we rehashed in 2008, he's sure making a point of emphasis, like for the fact that Belchase beat Shaw. I mean, it was a courageous run by Shaw to get to the Superdome. Granted, they caught a little bit of fortuitousness, but still.
No.
They was. Come on, bro.
No.
Stop it.
No.
Calm your nerves.
I got the video.
No, I know you got the video, but here's the thing. You got to give Belchase credit, man.
Well, you do. Blake Mathern was a monster.
Blake Mathern was a monster. And there was a team, and you talk about a team of destiny. That was a team of destiny right there because I seen them against Helen Cox in probably one of the best games of the year. And the thing about, we knew the offense that can score. We knew the offense could score, but their defense, when it's time, when they had to make plays, they made plays, and they made big plays when it came time. When I seen that, I said, Belchase got something special. They got something special because we know they can score the ball. But if their defense make plays when they have to, I'm like, man, they might win it all. That's what I thought after I seen them against
Mm-hmm.
Helen Cox. And then when they beat Bastrop, I was like, I'm like, man, Belchay's about to do this.
At
They gotta
Bastrop
find a
too. Don't
different
forget that game was at Bastrop, which
at
was
Bastrop.
another impossible place to win. Back then when Bastrop was recruiting Port Sulphur post Hurricane Katrina, because a lot of your exodus of players, Randall Mackey was a monster from Port Sulphur that went to Bastrop and played quarterback up there, and it wasn't just them, and whatnot, but. Let's stop beating up the '08 year
No,
because
no,
Yeah,
no,
it,
let's,
no.
it,
I'm
let's
about,
get
I'm
it
about
up.
to get my say in right quick.
Go
I'm
ahead,
all
gonna
go
get
right,
my
ahead.
let
say
it
in.
fly.
My
Get
friend. Go
my
ahead.
say in on this one.
I'm gonna get
Okay,
mine. Come
okay,
on, Chris
yeah.
Rock. I'm gonna get mine.
Get mine. Get my say in.
There
Then
you go.
I'm gonna say something else that happened earlier today that I gotta say on this show. But this is what I'm gonna say. All right, and it hasn't really been said much because they didn't want to get out. But if you ask every defensive player for Shaw on that team, you ask them this question. Ask them what happened to the defensive plays y'all practiced and ran the week of getting going to the dome. And they're gonna tell you they didn't run one. They didn't run.
That's on Bates' father, though, isn't it?
Hell freaking yes on Bane's father. And
That's on Scott.
if they all said it, like all the plays we practiced, we didn't run it one time. What the hell? They had Zach Guthrie as the spy on Blake Mathern and practiced the whole week because he could keep up with the speed of Blake Mathern. Zach Guthrie did not go in there one time.
Hmm. Did
Now, what
not
does
know
that
that.
say? I'm not
Did
trying to
not
take
know
nothing.
that.
I'm not taking nothing away from Bell Chase. 28
No,
to 7, 28 to 7 says it all. But for real, all the plays you practiced on defense and you didn't run not
you're not
one.
giving your team a chance to win, brother. You're not giving your team. You're not giving the optimum chance of your football team to win. Would they have won? Look, honestly, probably not. Bell Chase looked a step ahead of you that day, but again, you got to maximize your opportunities. And Scott Bain's father in a couple of those championships, the Bell Chase one, since you mentioned it, was one where he failed the school. He failed the school. As simple as that.
You
I
know the
could say
year.
the same thing about my school in 2015 when we lost to Zachary. Corey Lambert wanted to drop kick him right before halftime. It's like they're telling you don't play man against Zachary because remember those receivers that they had. Lindsey Scott was a monster, but that receiving core was silly good. And
Yes.
we sitting there playing man. No, play cover two, play zone. What are you doing? Give your defense a chance.
Yeah.
That bomb that happened near the end of the first half.
Ooh,
At
see?
that point, I said game over. Even at 13-12, I felt my wife, God rest her soul, told me, she goes, baby, what you think? I said, we're done. We're not winning this. She goes, why are you so negative? I said, because that play did not need to happen. And when it did, I knew momentum's a son of a gun in
Oh, yeah.
sport. And when Big Mo went to Zachary, it never left. Zachary paid the rent to keep Mo on their side. And they wound up winning 46-12.
And I think in nation, I think the coverage. I think you're right about, but also I can definitely say looking at the game itself and I called a good bit of error games that year. I can definitely say, and I some of it is the coaching, but I ain't gonna lie. For the first time all year, what I seen, the injuries caught up with Eric that night.
It did.
They caught
Okay.
up for the first time. I was thinking, look at what they have. I'm like, they're working so good together. I'm thinking they have a shot. When the first series came out and Travis Mumphrey looking nervous as a deer and getting hit up and stuff, I was like, this is not good. And then all of a sudden they put in Scooter in there to Scooter Harris to try to fix it. And they hit him up. I was like, this might be trouble for Eric because the injuries that they if everybody had been healthy for Eric, I think it'd have been a different story. It would have been an absolute different story. It's just like when I talk about Shaw the year they lost to Bastrop, and Ramon Robinson was not a quarterback. I always said Shaw would have had a shot if he's starting. When he got hurt, and because I'm saying that because when I seen him against Rummel, what he did to Rummel was criminal, and I was like, this dude is. I think this might give Shaw the best chance to maybe win it all or beat Bastrop because this dude can play. He gets hurt, I believe, week 4 or 5. And I was like, oh God. I said, dang, this is not good. And like I said, sometimes injuries play a big factor. It might not play a big factor immediately, but it's gonna play a big factor later on. So that's what basically happened in that game. And you talking about times with critical decisions. I still didn't forget my junior year at St. Aug. We had Rummel beat. We had him. This was Jay Roth's first year.
Jay Roth, our daddy.
Yes. I'm man enough to say that. Jay Roth owns us. You have to respect that. Some people are like, I don't hear that, but respect it. This dude beat us as a quarterback at the 2 losses St. Aug got in 78, 79 was to who? Rummel, and Jay Roth was the starting quarterback. He know how to get us. So that first year, and get this, St. Aug beat Rummel 14 years straight. We have owned them. We knew this Rummel team was different when he coached them. Jamal Fobbs goes on a long run with 1:30. We up 16-3. I'm thinking we got them. We got them in their house. We're going to stay undefeated. We just came off the big win against Eric and Johnny Mitchell and company. We just came off the win. So we're thinking, man, we about to stay number 1. We looking good. All of a sudden, we kick a doggone square kick. I don't know why we did that. It gave Rummel field position. All of a sudden, these fools scored a quick touchdown. Cut the lead 16-10. They kick an onside kick. St. Aug didn't get it. Rummel got the ball. So all of a sudden, bust the ceiling at quarterback. The first play, he going back to pass. Wayne Cordova lays him out, but he gets back up. And I'm thinking, bro, we just got to get him one more time. Bust the ceiling goes back on the next play. He throws a deep ball. 2 DBs from St. Aug was trying to get to Robert Wilson. They run into each other. Wilson catches it. Touchdown, Rummel. They take a 17-16 lead. We try to go down the field, kick a field goal. Clock runs out. Rummel wins 17-16, and they celebrate like they won the state championship. I was like, oh, my God.
All right. We got to move on. We got to
yes.
close this show in a second. But I gotta say one thing on right quick. Most of y'all know that I am a Taekwondo school owner. I'm a 6th-degree black belt, 4-time world champion. I was supposed to be in Phoenix, Arizona this week for the World Championships, but due to an injury I sustained, I am not able to go. But this guy here in this picture, this is one of my students named Stephen Regard. When I started Taekwondo, Stephen Regard was a higher rank than me. He was the guy in the school, and he was the guy I wanted to become, and he's the guy I looked up to. And his family couldn't afford to take him to tournaments outside the state of Louisiana. They couldn't afford it. And the guy was that good. 1998, I became the first kid in Region 116, which is the Louisiana and Mississippi region. That's one region, the 2 states in one region. I became the first kid in Region 116 to become world champion. I tell people to this day that it should have been me. The first guy should have been Stephen Regard. Stephen Regard wound up quitting at around 1999. And I hadn't seen him since until 2020, right before COVID started. He walked in my school and he said he wanted to put his kids in. I said, good, but you're going to join also. He was like, I don't know. I said, oh, no, you're going to join. I said, you have unfinished business. And what I meant by unfinished business was there are some world titles waiting for you. So he was kind of hesitant at first, but then he joined. He joined. And for the tournament year of 2022, he made the top 10 in the world. And he came that close to winning. He took a second in creative forms and a third in XMA forms. He felt as if he should have won, though. He wasn't happy about it. I sat there and said, okay, we didn't win. How bad do you want it? Here we are a year and a day later. Say hello to my new world champion in creative forms and XMA forms, Stephen Regal.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Congrats. Big ups.
Yes.
Yes, sir. Congratulations.
Congratulations, man. That's big for him. That's a redemption story in itself, man. That's redemption. I love
think
it.
we got to get him on the show so he can tell his story.
Yes, please.
That'd be nice.
We are welcome. We're welcome with open arms, man. We love to have him on. That's wonderful for him. I mean, it's big for him. That's big for your dojo. I mean, man, I think that's historical for your dojo, man. That just shows the ATA Black Belt Academy is really, really something. And I'm hopefully soon I will try to see if I can get my little girl in the dojo.
Definitely.
Try to get some.
It's also credit to you, Jared, for pushing him and saying, "Look, man, that's why I'm going to give it to you too." I mean, I give Stephen the credit for working his butt off to get to where he's at today. The crescendo is a world championship, and that's the biggest thing you could get in the sport of taekwondo. Um, but for you, if you wouldn't have had the impetus to say, "Look, dude, you've got things you got to finish. You're not done by any stretch. If you don't push, this day don't happen." So big ups to you too, my friend.
Thank you, man. Thank you.
You're
Look, man,
welcome.
I said, I walked into school when I saw him do his form, I was like, wow. He had all the potential to be great. And that's why I say I should have never been the first junior. It should have been him. I tell that story to my kids all the time, even with him in there before winning the world title. I said, I was the first one, but it should have been him, not me, because he was that good. And when he walked in that school and said he's putting them kids in, I was like, oh no, I'm getting you in here. And I'm getting something that he wanted to be a world champion. He wanted it. Like I said, parents couldn't afford it. But I said, you come in here, it's going to happen. And I'm so happy. I text when he called me FaceTime, and he showed me one medal. I said, man, you got it. Congratulations. And he said, I'm about to get my second world champion medal. I'm thinking he about to go compete again for the XMA. I said, yeah, go get it. Let's get two. He said, no. I already got it. I'm going to get the medal for real. I was like, awesome. When he sent me the picture, I sent it to my former instructor, our former instructor, Mr. Dave DiMatteo. And Mr. DiMatteo was so happy, man. He said, tell Mr. Rigo, I'm so proud of him, man. And he said, Master Board, I'm happy for you pushing him and getting him back into Taekwondo to achieve his goal. So, man, we killed some stones with this, man, and I'm so happy for him. He deserves it.
This just shows more than anything else that this is your calling. This
Yeah.
is your true calling, regardless of the fact. And I can understand why you mix a lot of things in between, including working and stuff, because you just like, I gotta maintain stuff. I can't let one go and whatever. But we know when we understand why, because like, you know what I'm saying, you have a true calling on your hands and you're trying to keep afloat of what your calling is, and it's paying off, because we didn't see a lot of great stories. It was a privilege that we had, that we one time interviewed before Devin Martino.
Yeah.
We had him on and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? And we're digging deep into your ATA background and stuff. And me even coming out to support you the 1 year in Arkansas and the Worlds, and I was like, it was interesting to see that kind of thing. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm like, it was a long time ago when I got into karate just for a little smidge with Mr. Pee Wee Blanco. You know what I'm saying? So, it's just the fact that it's amazing that what you do, for the community and also for martial arts and everything. But it's just your true calling that you're really saving not just kids but people's lives as well.
Thank you, man. Appreciate it. Appreciate it.
Second that emotion
Thank you, my friend.
emphatically.
Thank you.
You're
Well,
welcome.
everybody, go ahead, George. What you got to say?
Oh no, I was just. I mean, it's been another great. Actually, 2 hours and change today. We've actually gone a little long today,
Yeah, we went a little longer
and
than usual again.
it is. But you know what? It's cool because when you get guests with content, it makes it worthwhile. And we do what we do. Um, just y'all for all of y'all that put comments and questions and everything else. Y'all help us do what we do. Y'all feedback is what drives us. Our work ethic obviously goes one, but a close number two is our audience. And you guys, if y'all not there for us, we ain't doing this. We
Right.
do this because we love it. And it's a beautiful thing to work with two people I love dearly, even though I pick on BK a lot, and you do too. And it's all in fun. It's all in fun. But the man tried to get some smack back on you with the '08, the flashback to '08. But August 25th 's coming. Just saying. But on that note, y'all gentlemen, I know we're going to talk throughout the rest of this week. I have a long work week ahead of me, an 8-day stretch that starts tomorrow. So I will beat a hasty retreat. But I want to say I love y'all, and this has been great. And after Legends Month, Jared, we got to get your guy on. After Legends
Definitely.
Month, we got to get Steven on.
We'll get
We
them on.
got to get him on. And
Definitely.
talk whoever VK or Jared, whoever wants to talk about next week, what we got coming up next week. Stay tuned, peeps.
Go ahead, VK.
And also, if anybody, and I know Brian Lee, and I want you guys, Brian Lee, and also Marlon Favorite, do us a big favor and everything if you can. We would love to have Ryan Paraloo on Legends
Him
Month as
too.
well.
Yep.
We would love to have Ryan Paraloo on.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? Because I asked that question just of the fact because of it's a what if question. That's all it is. Ryan Paraloo has overcame a lot to get where he is right now, and it's a blessing that he's out there being a productive citizen, coaching and everything else. So we would love to have him on. You know what I'm saying? I'm not gonna be a bitter Purple Knight after what he did to us in the playoffs. I'm not gonna do that to that man. That man is
You mean how he
unbelievable.
works, y'all?
He had Slickum on his jersey. That's all I gotta say
Slick
about
'em.
that. He
Stop
has
it.
he had some kind of Slickum on his jersey, bro. That was ridiculous.
Excuses. In the words
Nah,
of the great Marcus
I'm just
Spears,
saying.
in the words of the great Marcus Spears, champions don't make excuses, damn it.
Well,
Just
champion,
saying.
you're right. You're right, champion. Don't make. I'm just saying that. If you would have been there at St. Aug and East St. John, you would
Mm-hmm.
understand what I'm talking about. Because we've seen a couple of plays, 6, 7 god doggone tackles being broke. I'm like, especially through the jersey
Slick 'em.
being exactly it's some kind of slick 'em or something. Like he sprayed some on that jersey because he can't be slipping like that. So,
Goose
All
grease.
right.
but still, try to get Ryan Paraloo on if you guys can do it. But this has been real fun, man. It's been real fun this week.
Definitely. Thank y'all for tuning in. Special thank you to Bryant Lee. Tuesday coming up, we have the one and only former quarterback at LSU and Perry Walker, Herb Tyler. And
Ooh,
then
I can't wait for that.
Wednesday, we have former LSU Tiger and former Destrehan quarterback, Jai UG. So
Mm.
tune in with us, y'all. We got a couple more for Legends Month, and we're trying to add more also. But tune in for my guys, VK Jones and George Peppers. I'm JB, your sports guy. Y'all take care.